So, I just got this in the mail, right here. This Fungi Perfecti catalog. I've been getting them for years at this point, probably like 7 years or 6 years or something like that, something egregious like that. And I wanted to talk a little bit about what I found in these catalogs and sort of the kind of content that I experience when I open one of these up. A lot of people are a big fan of Paul Stamets here. I'm a big fan of Paul Stamets, actually. He definitely, like for a lot of people, inspired me to look at fungi in a different way in general, just like the general public kind of does now. I'm already getting comments. Awesome one this year. That guy is great. Right. I've even done videos about some of his products. Actually, no, none of his products. I've done videos about sort of a fan appreciation or an enthusiasm that I don't necessarily share that other people do. And it kind of comes from being, I think, a little bit more aware of all of the different products and sort of the disciplines that exist in agriculture and that sort of a thing. People gravitate to him in the same way that people gravitate to Neil deGrasse Tyson, the astrophysicist. Paul has kind of transformed into, or from rather, or maybe always kind of was, a science communicator, as opposed to a mycologist purely. And that's a really unique place to be, at least at his level. A lot of people don't necessarily devote time and energy to becoming like a science communicator, but he has, and he's also kind of tried to market himself in a particular way, in a particular fashion, that I don't altogether agree with all the time. Some of the products that he produces I don't necessarily agree with. Especially him being a scientist, I think is kind of funny that he sort of promotes and literally markets some of the products that he does, some of the more homeopathic remedies. It's sort of ironic to me because he does so much research on fungi in general, and he's done some really great research or at least advocacy for, you can look it up online, but there are tons of things that he's done, both sort of recently and also in the past, where he's talked about like health benefits of fungi, certain kinds of health benefits. Lingsher or reishi mushrooms, for example, which I've grown before, are helpful for cardiovascular health in certain ways. They're polysaccharides and other compounds that can be sort of taken out of the fungi, the fruit bodies anyways. And some of those chemical constituents are known to be helpful for people and helpful for their cardiovascular health. However, the sort of people who would do this kind of research are also the sorts of people who tends to benefit from the products. So you have to kind of look at it that way. I'm not saying that it doesn't exist or that the research is invalid, but it's important to note that sort of conflict of interest exists. And then also you have, I'm very familiar with the Chinese traditional medicine, particularly where fungi, like Lingsher fungi, are a part of the, or are focused on, rather. And I know that there's a ton of people who, who are in China and think that, so of course they're going to say that the only appropriate, Chinese fungi you can get, or the only appropriate fungi or Lingsher mushrooms you can get are from China or Japan. None of this North American Ganoderma stuff, when essentially, virtually, they are pretty much identical. And I have interesting research reports that kind of go over that too, if anyone's interested. This video is going to go onto my YouTube channel, Zenthanol, so you may find that information in the description below when it finally uploads. And also, I'll probably put references to the research report maybe here or something like that. and you can go take a look at it yourself, because I'm not saying this just off the cuff. There's academic literature associated with it. But yeah, it was a pretty nice. I definitely like the catalog. I like what it looks like. I think it looks very nice. I'm a big Linger fan, just kind of aesthetically. And I used to grow it, and it was very fun and rewarding to grow as well. I actually bought the plugs for the Linger mushroom from not Fungi Perfecti, but I bought them somewhere else. I don't remember exactly where. But I have bought the King Stropharia plug spawn from Fungi Perfecti, and it worked pretty well, and I liked it. I also bought a shiitake mushroom bag, I think, from them as well, or that might have been like mountain mushroom or something like that. But it's like, so anyways, so he does all this research, Paul does, and other people associated with him. They do all this research, but he doesn't spend any of the time to like validate any of the medical claims for his products, which I think is a little bit lacking, to be neutral about it, because he and people like him make this sort of announcement about how important mushrooms are and how helpful they are for our bodies and how helpful they are for like honeybee immune systems and mycoremediation and that sort of a thing. But then he doesn't like take any of the like money or research like inertia that he can have from the media blitzstorm that he does, or that he's done in the past. I would say that he's not necessarily in the limelight as much, or as often, anyways. He doesn't take any of that inertia and like uses it to validate the claims. Part of the reason for that is because it's so expensive. So I can totally understand why that might seem sort of egregious, but it is a little bit unfortunate because I do know that some of these products at least should, in theory, be helpful for somebody's immune system or or just their physiological health in general. And there's not really any sort of claim that can be like supported or substantiated yet. And I'm just a little bit unimpressed. I just wish that there was more of that, I suppose. And there's probably legitimate reasons like I just mentioned here. But I definitely don't think that it's going to be very good for the future of like these sorts of products and people like him. That's a big thing that I sort of like wanted to talk about. I don't want this to come across as like a unfair criticism or anything like that. I definitely credit him for a lot of my interest in the mycological world, and I don't think I would be where I was if I didn't have some of that allure, or if I didn't experience some of the allure of some of the things he's talked about. So I mean, like, again, big fan. I bought some of his books. I highly regard a lot of his academic research and work. It's just that some of the science communication he does is not science communication. It's like marketing for homeopathic remedies, which I don't really support. So, sort of an issue there, sort of a conflict of interest. Again, that's what I would characterize it as. Because here we have this page that says, you can't see it because it's gonna be opposite on the video. It says mushroom mycelium provides unique immune benefits with an asterisk. Then you go and you follow the asterisk and it says these statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. And sure, there are products that aren't necessarily like evaluated in that they're not evaluated in that way, but that doesn't mean that they don't work for those people. Sometimes it's because it's a placebo effect, right? But sometimes it's just because the product, like, just they don't want to go through the process of evaluation, but it still works. But then other times you have problems, and here's the big thing for me, is that a lot of products are not, they're just not what you're buying. And there's a really nice research report that I'll link in the description. Future me will know to link it, because future me will see this video while I'm editing it and know exactly what I'm talking about. But there's this academic research report that goes over the composition of a bunch of different supplements. And I don't think they necessarily mention these products in particular, but they did mention some egregious like percentage, like 75% or more of people, or of supplements rather, are just like full of filler material and either don't contain any of the product that they say that they do, or an extremely small amount. So quality control is way out the window. It's kind of the same problem in like with the regulation of certain products in general. Part of the reason why you regulate a product, whether it's something like cannabis, for example, or whether it's something like this, is that you want to make sure that it's consumer protection. You want to make sure that the people who are buying the product, like, get that product. I mean, it makes sense to me. And you can't necessarily trust that a company is going to do that. Or rather, even if the company has some sort of screw up, it's not like, I mean, I'm not trying to paint anyone nefariously, but even if it's an accident, it's still the truth of the matter that the product isn't what it's being advertised as. And just so it's either a quality control issue that's unintentional, or it's a quality control issue that is intentional. And if it is intentional, that's kind of problematic, right? And I would never like insinuate that Paul Stamets is necessarily doing that. I actually would challenge, lowly me would challenge him to maybe do some of that research, and maybe like some of the institutions that he's associated with might want to further that research, so you can get that asterisk out of the way, and people like me would feel more comfortable buying your products. But he has done some cool, like I was saying, like some of the cool research he's done that I do like is this bee research, where he talks about colony collapse disorder, and he talks about how like the fungal mycelium was helpful for deformed wing virus, and what was the other one here? Oh, the Lake Sinai virus, right? So ingestion of this mycelial exudate was beneficial for the honeybee immune system, which is really cool. And I really hope that research like that continues. And just so it's very clear that I'm not, that I'm not unsupportive to this guy, he says here, if you'd like to contribute to these efforts, donations to the WSU can be made online at befriendlyinitiative.org. Supporting Host Defense, which is a reserved title, products, and our Give Bees a Chance campaign also helps sustain funding for this important research. So mostly he's looking for donations and funding for this, which I think is a goal that I hope that the U.S. government and other governments would put some money into personally. That's what I would like to see. Or maybe him contribute to government agencies and entities that are already doing that. That would be kind of nice. I'm curious if anybody who's watching right now, if you have purchased fungal products, and if you've purchased them from Fungi Perfecti in particular, I'm curious what they are, and also if you have not purchased products from Fungi Perfecti but from other locations, I'm curious what those are too, because there's a lot of interesting democratization of like fungal techniques and personal, I guess you could say, cultivation knowledge that has become more, it has become shared among a lot of people, especially recently in like the past 2 decades or more. So most of my adult life, and I'm really happy to see some of that kind of change, so that people are able to kind of do it for themselves, and other companies can come in and sort of innovate and be pioneers in that way. because eventually people like myself and everyone watching this feed and Paul himself are going to pass away, and their research is going to be the fundament for other people to launch off of. And he's a pretty big giant on which the shoulders other people can stand on. And the larger that giant, the better the investment in the future, I suppose. But me personally, I haven't bought a whole lot of his products. I do like the quality of his. I did buy, that's right, I did buy a scalpel. Let's see if it's in here. He's got truffle oil, which is pretty expensive in general. Although these prices are a little bit big. Maybe that's truffles, so yeah, let's see if he has some of that. Because I bought scalpels from him. They're Japanese scalpel company that I guess he was hosting or something. Because I got them from Japan. And they were really good. There were a bunch of different heads for different uses. And you could just buy more of the heads to latch onto the scalpel and connect it. And they were really helpful for both cutting mushrooms and inoculating them in petri dishes. They were also helpful for other sorts of things too. And I think I found them. Yeah, okay. Right. So he's got this Paul Stamets favorite scalpel product here. And I got a picture for you right there. It's the bottom one. Pretty cool. I liked it. And so you can see on the blade, you can see where it latches onto the to the handle. And it came with I don't know if it still comes this way, but for me it came with 10 or 6 different heads, I believe. And they had all different kinds of beveling and that sort of a thing. So depending on what you were trying to do with them, and they were very high quality, really sharp out of the bag, which you hope because they're scalpel, right? And it's not a terrible price for a really good scalpel. So I would definitely say, I'm not being paid to say any of this stuff or anything like that. But Paul, if you're watching, if you like me, if you like the stuff that I'm doing, give me a call for sure. But no, I really like this handle in particular. Oh, it sets of 10 spare blades. But we have this ET7SB. That's the particular head that we're looking at now. And the ones, I think I got extra ones too, because I'm a person who likes to have the options, and I guess I thought that the look was pretty cool. I haven't used some of them, to be honest. They just look really nice, and I haven't been doing a whole lot of fungal inoculation or anything like that lately. But yeah, I mean, I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about the magazine and about Paul in general. And it's definitely a nice one this year. He definitely is getting a lot of mileage out of this bee picture, that's for sure. He says here, we are studying mycological solutions to increase longevity, reduce mite and viral burden, and improve immunity of bees, which is exactly what that does. And those are the chief causal agents of colony collapse disorder, as we understand them to be. Of course, there are pesticide compounds and that sort of a thing too. Man, there's a lot of different products here in this, and they're not really some of them are culinary, some of them are medicinal, sort of, and some of these are guides and mushroom mycelium. I'm curious. I wonder what's the most popular thing that he makes, because I would think it would be the mycelium probably, or maybe the most commonly purchased thing is probably the mycelium, but that's a bias. That's probably what I would do. So I don't know. Anyways, that's really all I wanted to talk about. Really low key live this time. Fungi Perfecti. Let me know what are some of the things that you've bought, and Tell me how you like Paul Stamets and how he's inspired you, if he has, and if you've never heard of him before, tell me what you think about him when you research him. Have a good one.